Now, Eric.
Yes, sir.
You have recently completed the Danganronpa series.
This is true.
You have gotten through 1, 2, and 53.
That's right.
Lay it on me. Give me your thoughts. What is your thoughts on the Danganronpa series?
I would say, if I had to look at just like as like an outsider's perspective of like visual novels, this one is the one for me, which means I'm a weirdo. I like fiction that challenges the audience to step forward, think about stuff outside the box. We're Kojima fans, so you know where that stems from. It stems from Sons of Liberty.
Right.
All the way through to Death Stranding, dude. Like, every project...
Right, and turn the game off.
You take a piece of yourself, you put it in the game.
Right.
And then, for the audience, it's weird because just doing research on the series as I was playing it, and after I was done playing it, the fan base is really weird.
Yes.
And
we're a bunch of weirdos. That I can confirm.
Like obsessive. I mean, I don't know if it's unhealthy obsession, but there's, I mean, a weeb stuff aside, there's a little bit of like, when it like there's a mix of like soap opera and Japanese anime love, like kind of combined, and I can't think of any other series that has that combination of the two.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I was doing research on Danganronpa, apparently the first game came out in 2011.
Right.
And then it was only translated in the States in like 2014.
Yep. That's when it was localized to the U.S.
But that was all just like word of mouth.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't like Yakuza where like it was like a slow burn and then like slowly embraced. And then by the time we're in Yakuza 7, it's like all the Americans are like singing Baka Mitai in the karaoke bar. Danganronpa was like very much like very obscure.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden a bunch of shit just hit the US through the PS Vita and everything at once. So like the fans in America who really loved it, they got hit with a bunch of shit at once and then like it exploded. So I wonder if that's what played into the ending of part 3, where the creators of a game are asking you to look at yourself as a consumer. And that's the gangster shit. And that's not really a spoiler. But in terms of like a really broad idea of like, if you're really obsessed with a game and then the game stops what it's doing and then talks to you as the audience member, as the person who receives the fiction, and they're talking to you and saying, you know, what are you going to do now that this is over? That I've never seen before. I've seen versions of it. I talked to you before about like
right.
Evangelion does that. That movie by Alejandro Jodorowsky, The Holy Mountain, where like you have the dudes who are like going up the mountain to see God. And then they find like the guy who like runs the temple and he's like sitting them down and he's like, after this long journey, this 2.5 hour movie, he like looks at the camera and he's like, you, the audience, you are God. And then the camera slowly pans back and you see a movie set and then credits. And you're like, what the fuck was that? Imagine that, dude. You sit through a whole 2 hour movie and then the movie stops and they're like, you were the whole point this whole time. Go out and seek your own truth. And you're like, what the fuck was I just watching this for? That shit, I love that shit to death. Like, Please hit me with that weird stuff all day. So to see that, I feel like that's why you recommended it to me, because you know I'm a fucking goofball. And I love that goofball shit. But, like, I like that sort of fiction where it's like, what does all this mean? Let's take a step back and then, you know, turn that mirror a little bit. That's why, like, the Joker movie is so fucking good. The same thing. Like, turn that mirror a little bit. Turn it towards the audience. this is what makes everything about what we're saying, everything about the story. It wraps it up in this nice little bow. Like you said, way back when you told me, like, you got to play it in a row. I'm not going to say shit. Just fucking play all 3 in a row and then get back to me. That's what you said.
Yep.
So I did that, and I'm glad I took the journey, man, because it was a nice escape from the norm, my norm. And I like the shit that, like, just pulls me out of my normal thinking. And it's just like, it makes me reconsider fiction in terms of, like, art form.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a video I didn't send you yet, but I watched it. It's like an hour and a half of just fucking... The title of it is Danganronpa is its plot. And I was like, what does that mean? So the guy's basically, like, his thesis is, when you think about a visual novel, you're reading a story.
Right.
When you play Ace Attorney, at least when we played Apollo back in the day, you know, it was like puzzles.
Mm-hmm.
This game doesn't have puzzles, really.
No.
It has, like, stuff to make you... It's not really like a Rubik's Cube. It's kind of like a... What do you call that? Like whack-a-mole kind of fucking... You know what I mean? Like, pick out the flaw in this argument. And then they try to, like, throw in, like, rhythm game shit to, like, throw you off.
Rhythm games and rail shooters and shit like that. And
yeah, there's rail shit in there, too. So I think about that a lot. Like, what does it mean when it's, like, the game is its plot? Like, so I think what the guy was trying to say is, when you play through the game, you're not really experiencing a game. You're really kind of just watching a show.
Mm-hmm.
And then 3 games into it, it is a show.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fucking show, and you've been the audience member this whole time, and then all of a sudden, you realize when you start the game, what's the first thing you see is an audience in a theater. And you're like, oh, fuck. Here we go.
Mm-hmm.
This is meta. We're getting super meta now.
Well, and that's what I did tell you that as well, as I said Danganronpa ends up becoming super meta at the end.
Way more than I expected.
Yeah.
Way more than you let
meta.
on. So thank you for just letting me get hit with that big salmon over the head. Like, yeah, dude, thank you.
Well, and, you know, quasi-spoilers here, but, like, at the end, you know, we were talking about it, and, you know, Samugi ends up being Junko version number 53. And she's talking to you, and she's like, yeah, Kibo is, you know, he's a camera. And then all of a sudden, all the fans come out.
That was when I was texting you in the middle of the night, like, Tim, you gotta help me. Like, what the fuck? What the fuck is going on? And then we were going back and forth with memes, and I sent you, like, the Mr. McMahon. It's me, Austin. It was me all along. Like, I was like, we were the fucking assholes the entire time.
Yeah, but that's what you're talking about with, you know, turning the mirror. Is like, people, what Dangan was trying to say is people are fascinated, especially by violence.
And despair.
And despair.
Especially now.
Yeah.
That game came out 3 years ago.
Yep.
Well, almost 4.
Yep.
And that despair wheel, that shit is no joke. So, playing that now, I was like, man, these fucking Japanese do not fuck around, dude. They're fucking super smart.
No, like, Chunsoft, I give those guys so much credit because they make... I know that visual novels, you said, step out. That's a step out from your usual norm.
Big time.
For me, I enjoy visual novels because I play video games to de-stress. Visual novels are just like very low maintenance. You can just kind of go with the flow of what's going on in the game. Chunsoft is definitely the alpha when it comes to visual novels.
Absolutely.
You know, 428 was great. I honestly wish I could erase my memory of 428 and re-experience it again. I would say 428's got to be in the top 5 of my favorite video games of all time. Easy.
And that's saying a lot, considering all the shit that we played just in the last 2 years, 2 or 3 years alone.
Yeah.
And these dudes did some shit with some FMV.
Yeah. That's all it is.
The less is more thing has a huge factor. Because when you talk about a game is its plot, that like that weird obscure sentence, what does that mean? So you have basically no cutscenes. You have no CGI, you have no big budget. You have writing only. Mm-hmm. That's your shield you're going to fall on. Mm-hmm. That's your sword you're going to fall on. And these dudes knocked out of the fucking park.
Yeah, and the main thing for Danganronpa is what they call psychopop art, which is what you and I talked about, where they make the blood pink, and that was to avoid an AO rating, their equivalent of an AO rating in Japan. That was the main thing that they had to fall on, is that just story and that kind of art direction. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. It's not like Call of Duty where we have this massive online multiplayer arena and you can play with people across the globe.
Don't you want to see 35 seconds of Ronald Reagan? Nah.
But like Spike heavily relies on, I just finished the Salmon Files. And this was another game that there was this unhealthy fan base with Aset, Iris, whatever you want to call her.
She's the pop star character, right?
Correct.
And there was a dude who basically was obsessed with the character so much, he review bombed the game because of the treatment of the character, and then people researched and found out that the guy who brought it up was the guy infiltrating like the review bombing. So it's like, you're a fucking weirdo. Yeah. Please stop.
Well, and the thing is Iris is like 17 in the game,
which makes it super creepy.
And spoilers, I don't know if you're ever going to play I, but there's only one scenario where Iris does not die.
I played the demo.
Yeah. There's only one scenario where Iris does not die in the game. And that's if you get the good ending. Every other scenario, she dies.
Yeah, the shit that you laid out for me on that game, I was like, yo. Because I feel like the 428 and the Salmonum stuff, you were like, yo, you need to play this Dangan shit, dude. Like, this is, like, up your fucking weirdo alley. And I'm like, yeah, okay, you got me finally.
Well, and I figure Dangan is, like, enough to where if you play the first game, it's, like, 20, 30 hours. You play the first game, you don't like it, you can just cut ties with it, and you're done. I was about 30 hours. 428, like I told you.
The longest.
Platinum, going platinum, raw game, getting all the endings was probably a good 80 to 90 hours.
We talked about this before. You said that Shibuya Scramble was the longest fucking game out of all of them.
Yes.
And
big time.
Yeah.
Big time. Because the thing with Shibuya is you're running, 4 different timelines.
And they all have branching paths.
Yep.
Each.
Yep. So the thing is like, you progress in this storyline, and then all of a sudden it goes, stop. You have to wait on this storyline now. And then you go to somebody else's, and you either find out that the reason why it hit you with a stop is that you fucked up, and now this character dies because of this character's action.
Which I thought was bad as fuck.
Yeah. Or you have to make this character do something here to make this other character progress.
Dude, watching you play that on the stream, I was like, man, between like that and then hearing the Samanum stuff, and then actually playing 3 Danganronpa games in a row, like literally in a row. I fucking like mad dash through them all. I was like looking at my own skills as a writer, and I'm like, fuck, these motherfuckers are got some shit on me. I need to go back in the fucking lab, dude. These motherfuckers are on it.
It's wild because
It's very inspiring.
yeah, it's wild because you look at these games and how they're written and like these long stories. You know, I'll go back to 428. I'm sure people are probably like, go to a different fucking well, you asshole.
Not really, because we spaced it out in a good way.
Right. But like 428,
Play this shit, dude.
428, like you have to write, and this is just for the main characters. There are sub storylines for 3 other characters after you finish the game.
You were texting me like on like random Sunday afternoons, like, bro, I'm still not done with this game. And I'm like, wait, I just saw a finale and then a finale part 2. And you're like, nah, there's more. And I'm like, well, what the fuck?
Yeah, because I posted all the playthrough, and then I posted an ending, because I thought it was the ending.
And it wasn't.
And it was just the ending, like a neutral ending. And then I went back and I went, true ending. So then I went and I did the true ending. And then they had a bad ending. And then one of the trophies were all the endings. So it was like, after I got through all of that, the raw gameplay, like I said, was about 80 or 90 hours. But the thing is like, you have to write all those storylines. All of them. Because you're going to get people like me that are like so sucked in. And you want to see every avenue, everything that happens in that game. And the thing that Chunsoft was able to do with that game was by the end of the game, like Osawa, who is this virologist in the game, he develops this virus, and like they talk about how he's a neglectful father and husband, and by the end of the game it's kind of a redemption arc. And the end of and at the end of the bad ending, he ends up getting shot saving one of his daughters. By the end of that, dude, like I was fucking emotional. Like I was like on the verge of tears, like with the music, because they had like these really beautiful but depressing string sounds, and it was just, and that's another thing with Chunsoft, is like
the fucking music.
Their music. I don't know how the fuck they hire these people, but like
badass composers, dude.
Chunsoft's fucking music for their games is just incredible. Like, thinking of a song called Hope from 428. And it's basically just a string section. But like, I could easily listen to that on repeat. It's just very beautifully written. It's very
timeless
and emotional. And that's where my big love affair with Spike comes from, is that not only do you have interesting characters, a good story, you also have good music. Everything in the game holds your interest.
They put heart into every section.
Yeah. Everything holds your interest. And like, Spike is quickly becoming my favorite developer. Like, the only one that's still like beating it out is Kojima Productions. That's it.